Hey guys, if you missed the Google Meets for current events, February 3rd, here's what we did. Learning target for the day, we can explain unconscious and conscious bias. Essential question, what is unconscious bias? We're going to review class expectations super duper quick. We're going to define bias, and then the rest of the time will be yours to complete the last two things on the daily planner, the video and the Padlet. And just a reminder of your homework, the Levels of Thinking Jamboard is going to be due February 9th. You guys have 57 more days till the end of the term. Remember that. Countdown includes weekends and days off. All right. Hoping if I turned it like I wouldn't be so ghostly white, but that didn't work out. Okay, so today I'm going to review the homework and late work policy similarly as I did yesterday with true and false statements. I'm going to read the statement out loud, give you some time to think about whether or not that statement is true or false, and then I'm going to go over those answers. Question 1. Assignments will almost always be due 1 week after they are assigned. Go ahead and take a moment to think if that is true or false. Number 2, if you turn in the assignment past the due date, Ms. Collins will take 40% off your score as a late work penalty. Go ahead and think about whether or not that is true or false. All right, we're going to go over those answers. The first one is 100% true. Assignments will almost always be due 1 week after they are assigned. If it's like a really, really big project or assignment, it might be due 2 weeks after they are assigned, just to allow you guys some extra time to work on that assignment. All right, next one. If you turn in the assignment past the due date, I will not take 40% off your score as a late work penalty. I will accept all late work for full points up until the end of the term. Just don't let that work pile up on you, because then it's going to be almost impossible to get caught up. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a moment to define the word bias. You've probably heard it before throughout middle school, high school, and then maybe even in elementary school. The bias is a disproportionate weight in favor of or against an idea or thing. So for example, Democratic politicians, they have bias. They tend to support increased federal government involvement. So when they vote for different bills, if it involves the government being more involved, they tend to favor that. On the flippity flop, Republican politicians tend to support less federal government involvement. So when a bill comes up that they have to vote into law, they tend to favor the ones that involve less federal government spending and involvement. All right, so that was kind of an example of more conscious bias, and we're going to get into what makes these two different biases different. Conscious bias is also called explicit bias, and unconscious bias is called implicit bias. Conscious or explicit bias means that it's easy to control or like to keep in check. It's an intentional choice that you are making. So for example, if somebody asked me my opinion about how good the movie Dead Poet Society is, I would have a very biased response. Number one, it's an inspirational movie about a teacher. I'm a teacher, so that's going to be a bias against my review. Also, I'm a huge Robin Williams fan, so that would be another bias against my review because he stars in that movie. That one is easy for me to check and be like, I really like that movie, but I'm also a teacher and a big Robin Williams fan. Okay, so that would be an example of explicit bias where you know you're being biased or you're choosing to be biased. All right, unconscious or implicit bias is harder to define because it's harder to control or keep in check, and it's done unintentionally. We're going to watch a video that further defines this type of bias, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it right now. What you guys are going to be doing today is on your Google Classroom, there is a video. It's about 8 minutes long, and it's all about unconscious bias, and it really gives a complete definition and some examples of unconscious bias. You're going to use the information that we just went over in class and in that video to create a Padlet post. There are 3 different types of Padlet posts that you can choose to do, and you're only posting one. So you have a choice of 3. You're creating one post. You can explain an example of unconscious bias. For the title, you would just write example. In the body, explain, and then put your name at the end. You could create your own definition of bias, which would include conscious and unconscious bias. You would just put definition as your title, explain your definition in the body, and then put your name at the very, very end. Or you could compare and contrast unconscious bias and conscious bias. You would just put comparison as the title. Then in the body, you would write your comparison and then put your name at the very, very end. Note that you got to put your name at the very, very end of the Padlet, no matter which one you decide to do. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me using my email address. You can call or text that Google Voice phone number, or you can always stop in during open office hours, 1:33 on Google Meets, or come during your scheduled block on Google Meets. See you later, guys.